Just revealed. Princess Leonor did the morning after her wedding. The world expected silence. Tradition dictated that the morning after a royal wedding should be cloaked in privacy, hidden away from the public eye, a time reserved only for the bride, the groom, and the quiet whispers of history. But what Princess Leonor of Spain did the very next morning shattered expectations. Not in scandal, not in secrecy, but in a way that revealed more about her heart, her vision, and her future as queen than any glittering ceremony ever could. Because while the world watched the spectacle of gowns, jewels, and royal guests, what truly defines a monarch is not the crown they wear on their wedding day, but the choices they make when no one is watching. And that is where Leonor stunned us all. So what happened? What choice did she make that morning after, in the hours when the world assumed she would simply disappear into marital bliss? And why are royal insiders saying it may change the image of the Spanish monarchy for generations to come? Let's step inside the story, one that begins not with roses, trumpets, or tiaras, but with a quiet act that carried a roar across Europe. The morning sun broke gently across Madrid, pouring golden light into the palace where Leonor and her new husband had spent their first night together as a married couple. Outside, Spain was still vibrating from the grandeur of the previous evening, the $76 million celebration, the 6 million roses that had turned plazas into oceans of color, the fireworks that had painted the sky in the colors of the royal flag. Yet inside the palace, something very different unfolded. Instead of retreating into seclusion, Leonor rose before most of her guests had even stirred. She dressed not in jewels or silk, but in something simple, soft pastels, her hair loose, her face untouched by makeup. And with little announcement, she stepped into the palace courtyard where a handful of loyal staff and guards awaited. Why? Because she had decided that the morning after her wedding, she would not celebrate herself. She would honor her people. Imagine the scene. The future Queen of Spain walking quietly through the gates, her steps unaccompanied by trumpets, her smile unguarded by protocol. Instead of withdrawing from public eyes, Leonor requested to meet ordinary Spaniards who had camped outside the palace walls overnight, desperate just to catch a glimpse of her. They were the bakers, the farmers, the students, the nurses, faces weary from waiting, eyes wide with hope. And then it happened. Leonor approached them directly, without the rigid walls of security keeping her distant. She shook hands, embraced children, and thanked them personally for standing under the cold night sky to honor her marriage. One elderly woman wept openly, whispering that she had watched Leonor grow up since birth, and never imagined she'd one day hug her future queen. This was not on the official royal schedule. This was not rehearsed. It was Leonor acting from her heart. But the moment didn't end there. After greeting the crowd, Leonor revealed something no one anticipated. She and her new husband had decided that, instead of lavish private gifts, they would donate a significant portion of their wedding endowments to fund scholarships for Spanish youth and to support families struggling in the aftermath of economic hardship. The crowd erupted, not with the pomp of fireworks, but with tears, cheers, and applause that echoed far beyond the palace gates. Yet the question lingers, why would Leonor, who had every right to retreat into privacy, instead make herself vulnerable, present, and deeply human on the morning after her wedding? Some royal analysts suggest it was intentional, a bold strategy to redefine the monarchy in her generation, moving away from cold tradition toward warm accessibility. Others argue it was purely instinctual, born from the values instilled by her mother, Queen Letizia, who has always emphasized humility, compassion, and duty above performance. And yet, a third perspective whispers something deeper. Could Leonor have felt the weight of expectation so heavily that she needed to remind both herself and her people that her crown would never distance her from them? That her marriage was not just the joining of two royals, but the binding of her heart to Spain itself. This morning after act set off a ripple effect internationally. Denmark, the UK, and even the United States picked up the images of her unannounced walk among the people. Headlines didn't just talk about gowns or tiaras, they spoke of a princess who had turned into a queenly figure overnight. Not because of a crown, but because of a choice. And yet, curiosity deepens here. If Leonor was willing to break tradition on the morning after her wedding, what might she do when the crown finally sits upon her head? Will she become the first Spanish monarch in centuries to tear down the walls of separation between the royal family and the people? Or will the weight of protocol eventually push her back into the shadows of convention? This single act has left even her critics silent. One Spanish columnist, long skeptical of the monarchy, admitted in print that Leonor has reminded Spain what a queen can truly be. Meanwhile, young Spaniards flooded social media with messages of awe, calling her the people's queen in waiting. But let us not forget, behind this act lies another layer of tension. How did the royal family itself react? Some insiders whisper that King Felipe watched proudly, while others say courtiers were unsettled, fearing Leonor's unfiltered authenticity could challenge the palace's carefully curated image. And what of Queen Letizia? Was this her daughter's independent choice, or the culmination of years of guidance from a queen who has herself challenged expectations? The answers remain elusive. But what is certain is this: the morning after her wedding, Leonor transformed the narrative. She showed Spain and the world that her reign would not be measured solely in jewels or ceremonies, but in the raw, unpolished moments where a leader meets her people face to face. And now, a final curiosity loop remains. If the morning after her wedding began with such a bold act, what will the first morning after her coronation bring? Will she stand on the balcony, waving distantly to the masses? Or will she once again descend the palace steps, not as a figure above her people, but as a queen among them? Only time will tell. But for now, what has been revealed is enough to leave the world breathless. Princess Leonor, the bride, became Princess Leonor, the future queen, not through a crown or a title, but through a choice made in the quiet light of morning. And history, watching closely, will never forget it.